Can I check in and see how you're doing since the last time? How have things been since you came in and saw me?
I have a job. I'm starting tomorrow in Farmington Hills, so it's an hour drive away from where I live.
Right.
An hour with, it's 49 minutes with no traffic, but I imagine it'll be about an hour to an hour and 15 in the morning. So it's north of just north of 696.
Yeah, two of my kids go to school in Farmington Hills. They drive it every day. Is it the regular hours? I mean, it's not the 3 to 11 job. It's the other one.
No. That job would have been $17,000 a year more, but I took the other job during the day, so I'll be home in the evening.
So you could have a little bit of a life.
Yeah, and it's going to be extremely tight. It's only $63,000 a year versus the other one was $70,000 a year. Plus monthly benefits were only $300 a month for a family. This new company, it's $900 a month. So matching 401k, and there's a bonus with the other company. So I calculated it all up today. It's like $17,000 difference just in straight pay, and that's not including overtime.
So you just decided it today?
No, Friday.
Oh.
Friday at 4:30. Because he told me, I asked, they expected me to start work Friday morning.
Okay.
And so about 5 minutes before I was supposed to be there, I emailed out, I need more time to decide.
Mm-hmm.
And then he emailed back, the CEO. It's a small company, only like 14 people.
Mm-hmm.
And these two guys started it. They're engineers. They were at Ford for many years.
Mm-hmm.
He said, what you chewing on? What you thinking about? Why delaying? And said, well, I have this other job, and I emailed them the paperwork showing they got better benefits and more pay, but yeah, I'll be working second shift, but it's more money right now. And he said, all right, well, I'll increase it from $60,000 to offer to $63,550, and then in January I'll bump you up to another $3,500 to $67,000. When you work second shift, you get a premium, but he says that job you're not going to progress any higher. And it was operating you bring in a car and there's wheels under the road, and you lock down the car and you do testing and there's microphones. And he's right, there wouldn't be any progress. There's no guarantee. But he says we'll take it on as a company objective to progress you, so that you're worth more, so that in 5 years you'll be getting.
There's places to go.
Yeah. So because of that, and so I talked to her first. And so she said, well, because this other one will give you opportunity to grow, and things will be really tight, so you should take that. And so I did. So I start tomorrow morning. There'll be no travel like before, so it's been a good thing. But boy, it's hard taking a bigger pay cut.
Yeah. I know.
I mean, I didn't want to work second shift, but realized $17,000 more is a good amount of money.
And when you settle into it, it's a hard adjustment, but it takes time.
So I'm happy to have a job, but I mean, if it was like doing noise and vibration work and doing that kind of testing, which I've been doing for 20 years, where I know I can do fantastic, I'd feel a lot better. But I'm going to be learning new things, and it's related, and there's some electronic work, and so I hope I can meet their expectations. I'm sure everyone there, I'm going to be the youngest guy there. And so everyone there looks like they're at least 50. The owners look like they're about 60-some. And you don't run a business for 20 years and be a dummy. I'm sure.
Right, and they're not going to replace you with a 30-year-old coming in, and they don't have to place.
Well, they could have. And when they extend me the initial offer of 60, and he said, how much? And I said, in the interview, it's always a hard question because you want them to offer you like 70 instead of you saying 60. And they're like, oh yeah, it's 60. Well, that's a bit of a stretch. We're kind of hoping to pay less, and so that's why I told him that's why I didn't counter offer you, because I knew you were already stretching. So I wasn't, but he replied, I think we both, the phrase he used, we both trust each other. I can see we both trust each other. And I'm like, wow, that's, So
can I shift a little bit? How did you feel about the therapy session last time? And did you take away anything from there when you were both here last time?
I need to make sure and listen to my wife and repeat back to her word for word what she's saying she's feeling.
Okay, and so how has life been since that session for you? How's your conversation and talking and all that been? Listening, whatever.
Are you asking me?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was still waiting for.
Okay.
I was just wanted to see what Mike. We didn't do much. We just kind of like reflected back content, but I wondered if you noticed anything different.
Well, yeah, my wife told me this on the way here. She's been, ever since then, she's felt sad. And I have noticed that, and I said to her, smile to me. And she's like, I'm feeling sad.
No, that's not exactly what you said.
Okay, go ahead.
You said something like, I need you to be loving. You need to smile at me. And I said, well, I've been feeling sad. Why do you think that's unloving?
I'm saying this while holding her.
Just to pause, and you know I'm breaking things down in here, right? But the whole point of what we're working on is to you reflect back to her what she said, not to change it.
I didn't change it. When she said, I'm feeling sad, I mean, I didn't know this till she said it. I didn't say, you can't feel that way. I said, okay, right?
No, you said something about her smiling.
But I initiated that. I initiated the conversation. You know, smile.
Okay.
And then she said, I'm feeling sad.
I see.
So she responded.
Okay.
And I said, okay.
So, all right. I want to get to Mary's sadness too and all that. But did you have any?
I feel I should act loving even if I don't feel like it. That I have an obligation to her, the vow I took to care for her, that I should act loving in ways that she likes to be loving. You know, not that I like to, but I have
the first step in all of that, and the key to what you just said, is the way that she likes or she wants. So you can't act loving until you hear her.
Right. I'm just letting you know, I feel that it is morally right for me to act loving, even if I don't feel that way. Mm-hmm. That it's an obligation for me. Mm-hmm. I must act loving.
Well, we all know that you want to do what's right.
Yes.
That's not a question. It's giving you the skills you need to understand your family and hear them. That's what you're working on. It's all a given that you want to do what's right, what's biblical, what a father and a husband should do. That's a given. No one's questioning that at all. And you've shown that in a bunch of ways. But what we're shifting to now is how to do that. So can I hear about what's happening with you, Mary, if you feel comfortable, the sadness and the effects of it, or is that something you feel you can talk about in here? Mike, how come you got your notebook out?
I want to write down listen.
Okay.
That's what I need to do, is listen, right?
What you need to do is to not write things down right now.
Okay.
What does that communicate to your wife when you pull out your notebook? She's sitting next to you crying. She's in a lot of pain, and you opened your notebook and took a pen out. This is the kind of like what I'm saying, We all know that you want to learn.
I write down things that are important.
Okay.
He does write lots of notes.
I know. That's a given.
Because I don't want to forget.
I've been trying to figure
Oh, me too. Sorry, I get inundated here. Let me know if they're
out. When I came last week, I actually thought I was going to be rebuked.
By
you. That I'm too critical. That I'm not supporting him enough. And I thought, when I came, it's just, Mary Catherine, speak the truth as you know best, and be open to hearing whatever it is. When you told me you needed to have a safe place, it reaffirmed that what I was feeling wasn't wrong, that I do need that space. And even my pastor and his wife agreed. And I never felt like Mike truly believed that, because he didn't act on it. But honestly, I've been trying to puzzle out why did I come away feeling I knew because of his background, that obviously that's what was a lot that was at play with how he interacts with us.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't a surprise to me,
Mm-hmm.
to hear you confirm that. And I've been wondering, is it, so often he tells me I misunderstand him, I misrepresent him, I misperceive him. And so oftentimes in our interactions, I feel like I have often felt like, okay, it's my fault.
Where did you learn that? Something goes wrong and the emotions get out of control. Where did you learn that it was your fault? Or how?
I'm guessing I learned that as a child in my house.
Mm-hmm. That's what kids, if something around them is painful, all kids think it's their fault, right? Yeah.
And my father was very authoritarian, somewhat domineering,
Mm-hmm.
or could be quite domineering. My mother's extremely passive. She lives with us right now. Even in our house, she's very sweet, easy to live with, but she's extremely passive. Mm-hmm. And I too was very passive for quite a while, and it got a little bit better, but it wasn't until recently going through this with him I realized, I still was pretty passive. Mm-hmm. And because he's intense, and if he wants something, he's going to let you know he wants it. So, okay, for instance, before our son Joshua entered the Army, it was the last weekend we were going to have with him. Let's do something fun. How about if we go as a family and just go bowling and have fun? Nobody in the family's good at bowling. So we were out bowling, and Joshua's just being goofy and silly because nobody's good at it. So to overcome the lack of skill, you just act goofy and enjoy that aspect of it.
Mhm.
Well, Mike's grandmother bowled, and I guess he had learned some things from her, so he would say to Josh, here, Josh, you know, I see you're doing this. You know, if you know, improve your form this way, you'll do better. And so he said that on several occasions, and Josh said, Dad, I'm fine. I like what I'm doing. And Mike said, I hear you. And then he said, now let me show you how to do this.
Yeah.
And Josh was getting frustrated because
Yeah.
he told Dad, I'm okay with
That's
this,
not what
Dad.
the outing was about.
The outing was just about having a good time, not whether or not we actually got really good scores. So this is where he continues to press.
He struggles with getting the difference between. He reads situations very differently.
Yes.
From a very different perspective.
Yes. And he doesn't seem to take the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So through the years, I've just kind of, okay, this is what he wants, so I will give in. Let's watch a movie. Well, what do you want to watch? Well, I like to watch, well, you know, he's the guy, so he likes all the...
So what's different now? Like, for example, that thing happened, it was fairly recent, right? He just went in the Army.
Yes.
So that thing happened, and you're having feelings, and you're learning about this, and you're admitting things, and you're facing them, and you're noticing things as how they are. But why is that happening now, do you think, with you?
Because I was doing a lot of reading. Well, I finally reached out for help when he had a blow up with Ben, our second son. And so I thought it had finally gotten beyond the point that I could tolerate and that was acceptable.
Right.
So I emailed our pastor. He thought I emailed him about Ben, but I was emailing about Mike and how he was handling the situation.
That's two separate things we're talking about. The one was where I was going to go on an interview down in Ohio the next day, and Benjamin got all in my face about about going to stay at someone else's house, a friend's house, and I'm like, Ben, I can't talk about this now. I made an agreement with Josh, and he's like, and then he's running around, and he's on, I hate you.
No, you said.
So that's when you emailed Ralph.
What initiated that was you said to Ben, do you want me to lose this job?
Yeah.
And Ben's like, what? Why are you saying that to me, Dad? And what? Yes. Okay, prior to that, there had been something going on with Grace, and I had interfered. I had put my 2 cents worth in because I thought he was being overly harsh, and he told me, stay out of it. So I admit it was more spiteful on my part.
Well, so it kind of sounds like you're experimenting with having a voice in your family now.
Yes.
For a whole bunch of reasons. You want a voice, you want to say it, you would like your opinion to be considered. And before it was a little easier to be passive, to let things be. But now you're growing and you're changing and you're questioning what's going on.
And I'm not letting him just state it's going to be this way.
So this is your choice. Like you're committed to going this direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're committed to going to the direction of. Does that include kind of looking at your past and maybe what created the passivity and kind of the beliefs you have about yourself? Does it kind of include that too?
No, I haven't thought about that as much.
Okay.
It's just, you know what, as long, I have to be careful how I respond. I don't respond in an ugly or hateful way.
Yeah.
But I can still put my foot down and say, this is what I believe, or, this is my opinion, or this is what I would like. We actually had an episode right prior, just before coming to you
Okay, today or last time?
today.
Okay. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to stay in. The generalities is just to kind of summarize what you guys are going through, so that we know where to go from here. So each one of these things we could go through the details, like this is how I felt about this. This is what I learned. Like we could separate all those incidents. But I think today I'm going to focus more on the generalities, like where you are both in your lives, and what needs to happen from here to kind of.
Don't be thinking that she's been passive our whole marriage, because for the first few years she was quite angry, and she's mentioned that she made the home not a home that I would ever want to come back.
You said you expressed it in some ways. You were rethinking that.
So
yeah, I remember her saying that.
Don't think she's been passive our whole marriage.
Well, this is where, if we were doing couples therapy, we would describe passive, because I don't think you're talking about the same thing. So that's where the communication needs to open up between you to understand and hear each other. And I can hear the difference between what you mean by passive and what he's perceiving. So that's the route that couples counseling would go, is to kind of open that up so that you're both on the same page. But we kind of still need to slow down and figure out where you guys are going to go from here. So you can hear her saying she's ready for her to be different. Can you hear her saying that part?
Yes, I hear her saying
that. And you've noticed that over the last couple months. Have you noticed that from her? Her like speaking up and trying to communicate to you her perspective that might be different, and her taking more risks. Have you noticed that? Her doing that?
We've had lots and lots and lots of communication over the last few months.
Mm-hmm. But did you answer the question that I just asked you?
Have I noticed more? Well,
have you noticed her speaking up about what her limitations are and what her beliefs and opinions are more often?
We've had a drastic lifestyle change in the last year because I traveled so much, and so I was not home a lot. And this last year I was home a lot more, so we had more opportunities for interaction. And I was stressed, and I was more irritable.
Well, yeah, we've talked about all the environmental factors and your depression. We haven't even factored that in.
Right.
You had a serious episode of depression in there.
And I'm accepting full responsibility for being irritable and being stressed. I have a responsibility to try and manage that so that it doesn't affect other people.
We've established that you want to do the right thing, right?
Mm-hmm. So, I always want to do that.
Mike, this is an example of what is happening at your house. I asked you a question about if you've noticed a change in your wife being more opinionated and speaking up, and it's been 2 minutes of you talking about completely unrelated topics. This is kind of the stuff that I'm bringing up now with you. Can you see what is happening between me and you right now?
I'm giving you a long-winded answer, and I need to summarize it real quickly for you, is what you'd prefer. So, yes, I've noticed a lot more communication from my wife and a lot more opinionated from her, yes.
Speaking up.
Yes.
Okay. And in general, how does that make you feel in the moment?
The way she's communicated, I don't feel good.
It's frustrating. It just doesn't feel good.
frustrating means there's an expectation that's not being met. And I have an expectation that I should be loving and kind in my communication, even if I have a disagreement.
Okay,
And so if and I have that same expectation of her. In any relationship, there's expectations. I expect her to communicate to me loving and kindly, and so that has been an issue. And so yes, I would agree. There is frustration.
Okay, I'm gonna pause things there for a minute. So I've seen him a few more times than I've seen you, obviously. So I can tell this is a really big, like, shift in your life, personally. So a couple things you said really struck you. One is that you were overcome by sadness, like you felt more sad. Two is you felt like you might be judged or admonished, but you weren't. It was more like you were validated. And then the third thing you said was about somebody else reiterated that you need a safe place. Okay, so those were the main. Are there any other things that you went away with from our meeting?
Yes. When you were talking about his, I don't know if you would describe it as his emotional development or being kind of stuck there as a child, confirmed what I had sensed. And it was like, this is why so many times, actually, the issues that the issues that he and I have, it's more along the lines of his disappointment in me and how I'm treating him.
Yeah, feeling abandoned and unloved and disrespected.
Or just, yes, primarily, you're not affectionate enough, Mary Catherine. I'm not feeling loved and all of this.
Yeah.
And this is what you need to do.
Right.
For me, through the years, I've always felt, I do understand, obviously, there's two of us. I have a part to play in this. However, if there's something that you're lacking, if you would let me know, because I may not, we talk the love languages, like his love language is not the same as mine.
Okay, but I think I know where you're going with this, but you can't, for someone who has such a deep hurt and abandonment and neglect and abuse issues, is there any way you could behave lovingly enough for him to feel loved by you? I mean, is there any way you can make up for what didn't happen in his childhood?
No.
No, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. And so it will never happen. You will never look at Mary Catherine and say, I feel completely loved by you. It's not going to happen. Because the wounds from childhood are too big. In your life particular, but most of us, right? I bring my garbage with my husband. There's no possible way I'm going to get what I need from him because God didn't make us, we're not supposed to get everything from our spouses.
That's right.
We're supposed to get everything from our parents. Our parents leave a huge hole. We can't expect our spouse to fill it. There's no possible way. There isn't a shovel or a bulldozer big enough to fill that hole. It's never going to happen. And that's what you're like. So last week you're kind of like, oh.
Yes.
That's kind of what you realized.
Yes. And I feel, okay, so what happened this evening was he picked me up from work, and there's a gap of time before we have to meet with you. He picked me up a little bit after 5. What would you like to do, Mary Catherine? And I thought by that question, he's asking me what would I like to do. And I said, would you like to go to a park? And I said, yes, I'd like to go to the Dexter Park. It's nice. It's pleasant. It's, smaller. And he said, oh, well, wouldn't you like to go to this, I don't know the name, a park in Ann Arbor along the riverside too? And I said, no, I would really like to go to the Dexter Park. I like that one. And we're not that far from it because
the store.
the store is close by. And he said, well, this one is, you know, only this amount of time away from your office, and we can spend more time walking. I said, well, I'm really tired, you know, from standing on my feet all day. I don't want to walk a lot, kind of sit. I like the Dexter Park. So he said, okay. And we headed off, and he said, well, it'll take 11 minutes there. It's 22 minutes round trip. So I'm thinking, okay, he's not happy that I chose to go to the Dexter Park. And that's where I really wanted to go. And so in the past, I would have said, all right, you know, if you want to go to the other park, we'll go to the other park. But I really like the Dexter Park. And I had thought when he asked me, where do you want to go, that he was asking really just what do you want to do. He after that, he informed me, no, I mean, you give your idea, I give my idea, and we have a mutual agreement. But at the time, I didn't realize that.
So what's changed in you between when you would have just completely given up, said what you wanted once, and then stopped, and now, what do you believe about yourself now that made you stand firm?
I have a right to my own preferences.
Right.
And just because he...
So you're saying the first thing you said was, I have a preference.
Yes.
I almost wonder if you didn't think you had a preference before. You know what I mean?
Before, in other situations, if I give a suggestion of what I would like, and then he comes back with something else, then I can tell, oh, he doesn't like my suggestion.
Okay.
He wants this other.
So my opinion isn't as important or valid as his?
Yes.
Okay.
I should have probably started the conversation by saying, because I don't know if she didn't mention it, I came by at lunch. I went to the dermatologist to get a mole removed, and I didn't have him spray my face, but this is all pre-cancerous stuff, because I'm starting them around and I don't want them to look at me all funny.
Yeah.
On my way back, it was 11:45, so I stopped by to spend time with her. And I came by, and the head cashier said, okay, yeah, she'll get off at noon. So then I sat in the van with her. She ate lunch, and then afterward I initiated and held her hand. And then I told her that she's a blessing from God, and I'm thankful for her. And then she goes, well, I got to go. And I said, I'd like to really give you a hug. Can I give you a hug? And so I did that at lunch. And I wasn't going to try and bring up anything negative on purpose. And then she brought up about our son's necklace that he found. And I kind of commented on this, but I don't want to really talk about it because it's not a happy issue right now.
So one thing you're both describing now is a result of, it's also something that's happened since the last session, which is things are shifting. Like, you're trying to do something different or pay more attention or do what you think is loving and kind, and you're trying to figure out how can you have some self-respect and be okay having your opinion and still be married and loving and communicate that you love him. You know, you're both struggling with wrapping your mind around these things that you're just learning. And it's going to be harder because you're going to mess up more because you're trying different things.
So I wanted to maximize my time where we could be doing, I said, let's go to a park in Arbor, we can hold hands.
How often do you say, what do you want to her and do everything that she wants, like just because that's a loving thing to do? And really where she feels like really heard and really like it was designed for her to meet what she wanted, what her emotions and...
I do ask, would me doing this with you make you feel happy feelings towards me? How often do we do what she wants to do?
No, how often do you just with the expectation of, I mean, I'm guessing just from what she's saying, not very often, but I know I'm asking a rhetorical question here, but do you feel like you have the ability to say, what do you want, or how can I...
I do say that to you, don't
sometimes.
What do I want?
And we do it.
Well, we're talking about generalities here too, right?
Yeah.
I believe I do. feel that's true?
Let me ask it this way. When he does ask what you want or what you like or what you prefer, are there usually conditions attached to it? Or a challenge to it, or an
Frequently, when the question's asked, and then then there are questions back.
So it's a give and take thing. It's not just
Yes.
a complete total acceptance.
No, right. He did bring up one thing. So I guess I was gonna take the dog for a walk, and I asked you if you wanted to come for a walk, and he said to me, well, will it make you feel all tingly inside if I come for a walk? And I said, well, no, it's not going to make me feel all tingly inside, but I'm offering to have, if you want to come walk, that's fine. He said, well, I don't want to do anything that doesn't make you all tingly inside. So I was like, I had offered. No, I am not at the point right now where I have all those warm, romantic, fuzzy feelings, and he doesn't understand that. Because we're struggling, so.
Yeah.
And I don't feel right now really safe and secure, and I need that security in order because the warm, fuzzy, romantic, that's part of being vulnerable and feeling safe. And
we're not designed to. If we don't feel safe, we can't live our life. You can't do anything else. Right. You have to feel safe. Otherwise, you're in fight or flight mode. That's just biology, right? That's how God made us. So, the necessary element to be intimate and to be close is to feel safe. So, without that, think about a wild animal. You can't eat if you don't feel safe. So, you starve to death, right? You can't have anything happen if you don't feel safe. So that's kind of what you're saying is we have to work on that first somehow.
And so he understands. I don't mean I feel unsafe physically. Like my physical being. Like, it's the emotional safety and confidence that I'm accepted.
Right.
That my opinions or my desires are accepted. That there's not going to be conflict
or any other kind of threat to you.
So it's more along the emotional route that I guess it's more acceptance.
So the definition of safety in this case would be respect, valued, accepted. Those are the main things, right?
Of me, and I do have to admit, of the children, the family.
Yeah.
So the fact that, it comes to me about, well, this kid is out late, or, this person has this or that, and it's like.
You want the same respect, acceptance, and validation and value for everyone in the family.
Yes.
And that, from what you're saying, even though they're not here, your kids don't feel safe around him.
That's true. I'm sorry to say it.
No, I have expectations of them. And
none of them do, huh?
And I let them know my expectations. That yes, I expect them to be home before Benjamin to be home before midnight, or so.
Is that the first time you've ever said, let that out? That people, your family doesn't feel safe? Okay.
I have mentioned it of recent weeks.
Okay.
Yes. Primarily it was more, you need to speak more positives into their lives. They're getting criticisms, disrespect. And they don't feel respected, especially the boys don't feel respected by you, which is why you're getting the disrespect in particular from them back. But, recently it was like, especially Grace has expressed she doesn't feel safe.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like I give him enough affection. I'm not I'm not a hugging type of person.
Mm-hmm.
I never have been.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked him, just please remind me when you're feeling the need, because this doesn't come naturally to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'll do it once, but then he expects that, I guess, that I will initiate after that. And I said, Mike, I'm sorry, I need the reminder. But he is unhappy then, and he feels unloved then. And I said, well, for me, it's like your time, and it's acts of service. And you've told me before in the past, please just remind me, because this is not my love language. So I know, rather than being resentful of you, that I need to just say, hey, Mike, would you do this for me? Would you, we need to, let's go out, because he doesn't, in the past, he hasn't thought, well, let me date my wife. So, I feel we need to spend some time together. So, do you have time? It was difficult because he had a busy schedule. But so we've been having a conversation. Yes, I'm not saying you haven't, but you don't initiate. So I would remind you, yes, in the earlier years of our marriage, I would get angry. I would feel resentful. I would be bitter about that. But he told me, it's just remind me, okay? So I would do that.
Why? Can I ask a question? Because you both alluded to it a lot, but why did you stop that feisty kind of standing up? What happened? Like, what happened to that part of you? Where'd it go?
Because I was ugly, and I was hateful. Oh, you mean when I would just be really angry with him?
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but why was there such a shift?
She realized it wasn't working. She was making a horrible environment for me to come home
to.
But how did you know that? Who said it was ugly? Was it?
Not me.
Like, how did you know it was ugly? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, one reason why I knew it was ugly is how I was feeling inside. Another, like, one time I remember being so furious. He's extremely independent. He didn't grow up with a family where everybody's sitting around the table eating together. And I had expectations. You will be home at supper time. You will call me if you're going to be late. Well, none of those were fulfilled. And my response was, or my reaction was to be angry. So I remember one time just yelling at him because I was so furious with him, and of course the kids were there too. And he was frustrated and understandably upset because he's confronted by a very angry wife, and he said, I'm doing the best I can, or something like that, and he pounded the wall, and there was a huge hole in the wall. So, I mean, no one wants to be, as soon as they step into the house, be confronted.
I was on my knees, by the way, when that happened. I hit a half wall.
Yeah, he was.
So I was on my knees, and I'm like.
No, you.
So you saw how ugly the relationship would get if you were both like that.
Yeah.
So you kind of readjusted a little bit.
Yes.
Or a lot.
I mean,
eventually
he wouldn't want to come home to be confronted by.
So you're looking at the consequences of you being like that, and then you started recognizing that.
Yes.
And then. So, you said you reached out for help. Did you mean to your pastor?
Yes.
Okay. I mentioned getting individual therapy. Did you think about that?
I have. I didn't.
I just wondered what you thought.
No,
okay.
Because of, in very recent weeks, I've thought, I need to talk to somebody. And there is a woman in our church who does do counseling, but I don't know her really well. So I hesitated with that. I mean, it's been just with our pastor and his wife, and they've been very helpful, but they're also very busy. And
yeah, that pastoral counseling has limits, and I think you guys have passed that.
Yeah.
It's not that type of counseling.
Right.
But did you think about calling my colleague? Yeah.
Yes,
What did you think about that?
I want to, and
Okay.
actually I had thought I would do it today at lunch, but he surprised me by showing up, so we spent time at lunch.
Okay.
So I haven't called her.
But you're open to that.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Because the thing that's, you guys are really trying to do this on your own, and you have been trying for a long time to kind of work through things, talk differently, try to figure things out. But the problem is, I think the patterns are just too ingrained for you to do it yourself now. And so I think it's time for you to go to individual counseling and kind of explore all the aspects of what you're learning about yourself. And that just there's just so much room there for you to, for healing, and there's just so much potential there, because you're starting a new phase of your life, right? Our kids leave, pretty much we start over. So I talked with you a couple weeks ago, like 2 or 3 sessions. I was like, okay, we have to regroup here and figure out what we need to do. So I've been thinking a lot about it the last couple weeks. So I'm going to make some recommendations about where I think would be best for you two to go, both individuals and for your family. But one thing I think, Mike, for you is I think the best environment for you to grow and get therapy is going to be in a group setting. I think group therapy is a really strong recommendation that I'm going to give you, because there's a clinic that specializes, is a DBT clinic. It's a specific type of therapy. You're an excellent candidate for it. It's very practical stuff, things that you're going to want to take away with like homework, strategies, lists. It's completely tailored to how you learn new things. So I think this clinic as a whole and this type of therapy is just a perfect match for you. So I thought through it really carefully, and I think I'm going to give you I actually have a text out to figure out which clinic to send you to, but that's the type of therapy that is really going to get you where you need to be. And I think part of it is group and individual. It's kind of like, I don't know if have you heard of dialectical behavioral therapy? That's what it's called, DBT. But it's, do you know how in here sometimes I have had you pay attention to where you feel things in your body, like your physiological responses, and how sometimes you're really disconnected from them? Like, oh, I don't feel anything. Like I feel, so this clinic helps you through all of those methods that will help you. It integrates a whole bunch of things, so that I'm really confident that if you commit to that, you're going to see a lot of growth and a lot of change in yourself.
Okay.
So I'm going to recommend that. You're welcome to research that kind of therapy, to kind of see, maybe you even see why I think that's good for him. You're kind of just learning about all this stuff now, huh? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, because I was thinking that I'd be able to do like EMDR with you or work on the trauma and stuff, but once I thought of this, I was like, tailor-made for Mike. Just, that's right up your alley. And so I think what I would recommend is, you don't have to just stop seeing me. We can still see each other until you get settled in this kind of new phase of life you're in. New job, hopefully new therapy situation. How does that sound?
Good.
Okay. I'm not just going to abandon you. We'll keep working until we get you settled somewhere. Okay. And I highly suggest Sarah for you.
Yes.
I think she will very much, she will help you integrate your faith in whatever way you want to. She's very skilled. She's done therapy for a long time, and I just think you're perfectly at the place where a professional will just really help.
Okay.
So that's going to be my recommendation. I think you could do couples and work on communication styles too, But I almost think that the other stuff is way more important right now. My hope is that if you both work on what you need to in therapy as individuals, that eventually you'll be able to do couples and work on your communication and interactions at home. But in the meantime, you know what happened today when he picked you up? That crap is going to keep happening, honestly. So there's two ways to look at that. One is you're getting worse, but my way of looking at it is she tried something different, she articulated it, you struggled with the whole park thing. To me, that's progress as a family. That's progress as a couple. Do you guys see that in any way?
Didn't feel like it.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I did what she wanted, and and again, I think I'm probably not clear. I say things, but I don't maybe mean what. Like when I say, "What do you want to do?" It's we're putting ideas together.
So here's something to ask yourself: are you open to interacting in a different way?
Of course.
Okay, that's what today was about, I think.
I wanted to maximize my time with her, and this was 22 minutes of less time with her, and so that's why I saw it as a frustrating and disappointment. I wanted to maximize my time physically with her and driving behind the wheel for 20
And that's not what she wanted at all.
Yeah.
At all. It was a totally...
I didn't express my
right.
real expectation.
Right. And so that's where you have to go back to, I'm open to trying this differently.
I'm open to anything that'll help.
So this happens a lot, but where people feel worse when they leave here, but I feel really hopeful. So you might leave here and feel worse, because things have opened up and you've named some things, but I feel really hopeful. I feel like God has touched something in you and you're going in a new direction and you've got so much of your life ahead of you other than focusing on your family, right? That's what you did. You raised your kids, you launched your kids, you're ready for a new whatever he has for you. And so I think this is an excellent start to that, is to say, okay, what are my preferences? What's my voice? What kind of marriage do I want for the rest of my life? What's gonna make you happy? So I think that's that to me that's exciting, but doesn't mean it's not gonna be.
So we have a new 13-year-old at home.
She just had a birthday.
In February. So she'll be starting 8th grade
My
next year.
condolences.
She's starting to get moody, but I am.
So.
Yes, questions. Clarification, questions, anything. And I'm still available. All of those recommendations I said, I'm still available until then for both of you, one of you, however you want to do it. I'm not just going to say, go to these people. Okay. Sorry.
Obviously, I'm going to disappoint him.
You are, repeatedly and more often, more than ever. He's going to be disappointed more than ever.
Yes, which he was very disappointed today.
Yes.
I sensed he wasn't happy with my decision. We were walking along the path, and at some point I sat down, I'm pointing out, these birds, listen to them, I don't recognize that bird, and I see this going on over there. He said, the way you behaved was you were very polite to me, but you weren't affectionate to me. He said, you weren't behaving like a normal, affectionate wife will behave towards her husband. And I asked him, well, when you say I'm not affectionate, what were you expecting? And he said, well, I don't want to say anything because I say the wrong things this time.
Right. Yeah.
So, but because when we were walking along, because I didn't take his hand, or, he said, my expectation was that we would hold hands, we'd sit and hug and kiss, and I said, well, if you want me to hold my hand, want me to hold your hand and I'm not doing it, why don't you reach out and grab my hand? He says, I want you to initiate. And I said, well, if you could just remind me until I get into the habit. But he wasn't happy with that. And I'm going to be honest, I feel like sometimes he places the burden of making the relationship loving and affectionate
It's your job.
on me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because he doesn't have the skills yet to do that.
Okay.
He doesn't have. That's why I'm trying to slow you guys down. I mean, you could go to couples counseling and go through the Gottman book and do all the exercises, but I honestly, just from knowing you guys now, that's not what you need right now. Mike needs to go to DBT, and it's like a step way before working on the couples communication. I just want to emphasize that. So that kind of stuff is going to be really difficult for you to talk about what's affectionate, what makes you feel loved. It's going to be hard, but the route that you need to go through is to learn how to do it through your own kind of therapy. And then you'll learn as you go appropriate ways to set boundaries. Like, this is my responsibility, this is my preference, and this is the best way for me to communicate it. And then let him take responsibility for his stuff. So you're totally on the right track with working on your marriage, but I just think there's a step that's got to come before all that's going to click. There's going to be a time after a while where that stuff is going to get easier at the park and communicating about what feels loving to you. And you're trying to do that on your own. Does that make sense? Was I helpful at all with that? Was a babbling response.
Well, what I'm taking away from it is we're just going to be very unhappy, or he is going to be very unhappy. I'm still kind of holding myself.
I don't think you're safe enough to fix that. So I'm validating that part of you that's not safe.
I feel when she has, I've never said don't hug me or don't hold my hand, that when she does, that makes me feel safe with her. There's been a lot of times where I don't feel safe with her.
Yeah.
And I'm wanting to let her know, and
that you're open to trying something.
Yeah, is that if you hug me, hold my hand, touch me as a wife would touch a husband, I feel open to communicate and try and then, safe.
Yeah.
And
so I am saying it's going to be hard for a while. Maybe you could just focus on one step at a time. And I'm sure that when you start with Sarah, she'll be able to help you break things down a little bit. Because right now, it feels overwhelming. Because you hear me saying you're going to be miserable for a long time. But with her, you'll be able to go in and kind of start a relationship with her and say, this is what I'm working on for right now. And just kind of break it down for yourself. And in the meantime, Mike's going to start a new job. He's going to be a little preoccupied, right? And if we can get him into that clinic and set up with a structure, it's very structured, he's going to have homework himself to work on at the same time, okay? And if that is not working for you guys, we can try something else, but that's just what I think really needs to happen right now. So again, the cool thing about today was you're both trying something new. You spoke up. You both learned a lot today.
yeah, I learned to not ask you what you want to do, to tell you first, I would like to spend time with you. How can we maximize that?
All right. That's a pretty big baby step, right? He just said, I would like. Which means you're open to the possibility that she has a completely different view.
Right.
Okay.
And if I express, then she won't come up, or she can still express it, but at least she understands my expectations.
Exactly.
I want to maximize time being with you. And if she comes up with an idea that completely,
then you have somewhere to work with.
Did you understand my expectation, my desire is to spend some time with you and not be behind the wheel? Yeah, but I want to do this anyway. Okay. Then
And what I hear you saying is, you have a special place you want to go, a park that you have your heart set on, and you're exhausted and don't want to walk anywhere. The place is more important to you than the time.
Right.
You hear how I got that?
yeah, but that's been
To
her number.
you-
Yeah.
To you, being behind the wheel isn't time together.
No.
But to her, the place and the specialness of that location on a beautiful day, that was the most important thing to her.
Would offset the less time with her.
Right.
Okay. Because she just mentioned she wants time with me initiating, asking her to go do things,
No.
and that's what this was.
Mm,
They're like, oh, let's go do something together before we go see you. I'm like, do you want to go eat? And she goes, no, I'm not that hungry. I mean,
okay. I just want to make sure you heard me about him needing DBT and the clinic first and how important that is from my perspective. Okay. So maybe you can actually talk with Sarah about that. That might be, she's going to know what I'm talking about.
and I'm happy to meet her needs if doing something
Yeah.
is
And maybe
more
you
important.
coming in to meet Sarah would be helpful, depending on what you want. But she would just be your therapist.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I have an 8 o'clock person. Should we schedule them a time to kind of, or how should we do this?
I work during the day.
How do you do?
She has a fluctuating schedule. She may work in the evenings. She works like
Do you
3
know
to
if you
11
work next
sometimes.
Monday night yet?
I do not work next Monday.
Okay, let's try to, I'll be the backup plan for next Monday for you both to come. So we'll try that. Okay, and in the meantime, wait, is today Monday?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm so
I've lost
disoriented.
track.
Yes.
It
It
is.
is Monday.
It is, yes.
Oh my gosh. Let's see if I have something. Alas, I do not. Okay, let's do this instead. Can you call Sarah and get in there whenever you can see her? Okay.
Yes, I can call her tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Is she?
Whenever. I don't know her schedule yet.
Okay.
Yep, I don't really know. And then Mike, you're gonna work. You and I will find a time for us to meet, okay? And I'll work on finding you a referral to that. I'll work out the transferring you to the clinic, okay?
Okay. I'm available
I'm writing this down now.
every evening.
I'll follow up with you.
So as soon as you want.
Okay. Right now, I can't schedule, but okay. Thanks.